Alison here. Welcome back to Words and Pictures for a few minutes of fun. We're going to do some messy, grassy stamping today, not least because I missed out some of my favourite samples from the live launch the other evening. If you haven't seen the newest stamps and stencils from PaperArtsy, I will link to those below and you can take a look at either the blog post and or my live launch video talking about them. But as I say, you won't get to see these messy, grassy bookmarks because I forgot about them. They're using this new stamp set, AB58, but of course you don't have to have that one. Any of my older grasses or umbles will also do the job, or if you've got some of the Tim Holtz wildflowers, these will have a dig around in your stash. This is not about having to buy new things. So we're going to create some of these lovely jungle look grasses. Very easy to get this beautiful wild watercolory look using both Archival Inks, Distress Inks, and we might use an oxide or two as well. I've got some Infusions powders, which I'm definitely going to add into the mix, and I might even add in some watercolour paints. We'll see how we go. I've got a couple of different papers on the go, and you'll see that that can make quite a difference. This is PaperArtsy Smoothy card, so that's quite a smooth surface. And then I've got some of my usual Goldline Studio watercolour sheets, kind of mid-range. I seem to have had this one open when I was doing some spattering, and it's got rather spattered, but that's great because that's a good start for what I'm up to. I think what I will do is go for little snippety size ones, maybe even smaller than these, because I think then what one could do is make really nice clusters with them. So I think what I'm going to do is cut myself a bunch of tall and skinny bits of card. Let's see. Yeah, I think I can do tall and skinny like so. And then maybe in half like so. I just want a bunch of things to work with so that I can do lots and lots without worrying too much, because I want to be able to vary my colours, vary my inks, vary my papers, all without getting my knickers in a twist about using up lots and lots of card or paper. So if I've got these kind of small snippety ones, that's going to give me plenty to play with. So I'm going to trim up a couple more of those. Maybe we go, I'm just eyeballing it, as you can see. I'm not terribly bothered about them all being the same shape, the same size. I'm just going to get myself a bunch of card. You could absolutely do this onto book page paper, and I'll be back when I've got just a few more ready to play with. That should be plenty to be going on with, and there's nothing stopping you stamping direct into an art journal. So I've also got that on standby. I suddenly thought I might quite like some purpley tones as well into the bargain, but let's start with green, and let's start with what may be one of my all-time favourite grass stamps. Brand new. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just because it's my latest one and it's always lovely to have something new to play with, but I think this one is going to be a long-time favourite. So I'm going to start with a neat stamping, so one that won't move. I'm going to do it in Archival Ink, and so that I can just get something that holds steady in the middle of things. So I'm going to do that on a couple of these. So there's a full stamping. This is Beach Cruiser, but I think there may have been some green around. A little bit on there, and then I might even get a secondary stamping out of it, something like that. Yeah, so nice and pale. Already 3 on the go. Let's put a couple on some watercolour paper as well. Slightly shorter pieces, but it's all good. I could even, another time-saving game, I could even go across 2 at once. So I'm getting my neat stamping done nice and early in the game. So the messy stamping, lots of different ways to approach this. You could just go with a Distress Ink and give it a good spritz of water, and that's going to soften those water reactive inks, and then you can go in for a nice soft watercolory effect like so. A secondary stamping of that, maybe onto the watercolour paper, is going to get me something that'll drop really quite a long way into the background. That already is making me really happy. So I might add into the mix a couple of colours this time. So that's Shaded Lilac, and I'm going to let that kind of blend on the stamp with some Faded Jeans. Again, the spritz of water will allow those to move and mingle. And I'm going to go in this time with a messy stamping first, because I can always come back. It's just so soft and pretty. Let's put one of those in here. It doesn't have to be the same stamp each time. I could absolutely go in with something with one of the other grassy stamps, and I think I probably will do that in a minute. But then also one of my favourite ways at the moment to get myself a messy sort of stamping is, rather than inking directly onto the stamp, I'll do a little bit of ink mixing right on the mat here. Let those kind of blend and move like so. Get a finger in there. Come in and get that inked up, and you can see that's got quite a lot of moisture on it. So it's straight away going to give me something probably a bit messier, quite a lot of fun, very soft and watercolory. So that's sort of step one with this as a possible way to play. Did I have, I can't remember. I am going to run out of paper. Look at this already. Let's go into the art journal just because I can, because it's right here and I was ready for that. Let's go down like so and get a couple of those just coming in like that. Already a really beautiful soft background. But then anybody who was around recently will know that I've been having great fun with the Infusions pigment powders. Any pigment powders you've got will operate for this. So you can use, I think there are Brushos and Bista powders, all of those. And if I just press down into there, the joy of PaperArtsy infusion powders is they have this kind of grunginess to them, because all of them have multiple colours. So although this one is called a bit Jaded and does have jades and turquoises, it has other colour powders in there, as well as always walnut crystals. So you always get a slight grunginess from your Infusions powders that obviously is quite dear to my soul. Oops, let's not drop it in there. I don't know if you can see, there are various colours coming through there. I think I put Emerald Isle and maybe a bit Jaded into the mix there. And let's do maybe one more of those. So I've now got multiple colours here on the mat because I've still got those leftover distress inks, and that's going to get me a really lovely soft looking one. If I then spritz, I can come in for something a lot softer, very subtle. Oops, it's now dripping off. Let's just maybe, there we go. Oh, look at that. Just that really soft one. And then once that dries with that soft watercolour background look, a more precise stamp over the top is going to get you really gorgeous detail into the foreground. So anything that is detailed and or darker will come into the foreground of whatever you're doing. Something soft and gentle and pretty like that will drop into the background. While I've got all of this on the mat, I'm going to get myself another stamp. So maybe this little ferny one here, which is gorgeous to play with. I sort of want a little bit more variety in here. So I think I'm going to add some Shabby Shutters. So it's not a colour I use very often. It's quite an acid little green. And again, I want things nice and watery. So just getting that as my watery starting point. And then I'm going to come in with detail later. So you can do this either way up. You can go with your detail stamps first. Oh, look, I've created a lovely extra mess on that one. Not worried, really. I'm quite happy to go with that. So let's create a couple of these in messy form, and then we'll come back in with a more precise stamping. Quite like the idea of having one of those in the Shabby Shutters, doing something like that. And they're just covering up where I didn't quite hit the ground on that one. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so that you can see these stampings as they happen. So you can see lots of scrumptious mess here on the mat. And now I can start mixing and matching. So I can, even though I've still got ink on this stamp, I can come in and just use my ink pad. It's highly unlikely to contaminate if you're bothered or feel like you've made something a bit messy, you can absolutely just wipe it with kitchen towel. So that gives me something really precise to start with. I'm now going to soften it and come back in with some of these watery ones in the background. So tasty. Let's come in with one of that. Let's do a couple of precise ones. I quite like the idea of something purplish going down there. So that was the shaded lilac again. I'm going to put some faded jeans sort of up the middle. The lightest of light spritzes of water, because I don't want it to get too soft focus. I want a little bit of precision on that one. And then I'm going to add a little bit more purple heading up the side there. Nice. Maybe what I want is a bit of this greenery. Let's not forget this nice art journal page hanging around here, waiting for more. So those have basically dried there. That's ready for another layer, I would say. So if I come in with some slightly soft, not massively soft, I need to be a little bit careful because the rings here are going to get in the way of the stamping block. So if I want to get right over to that side, I need to put the stamp right over on the edge so that I can reach it. Lots of lovely inkiness on here. I seem to have given myself a big splodge of something down here. It's fine. I'm just going to cover it up with a stamp. Grand. I might lose some of this now because it's quite dark green. And I sort of want a bit of variation. If you've got something that's too much for you going on, just knock it back with a bit of kitchen towel. Simple as that. And that's, again, creating really nice layers. I hope you can see how those darks come into the foreground and the purples are dropping into the background there. So along with all these little snippets that could be card toppers, they could equally well just go straight and be bookmarks, as they are, or with a couple of words on them. So on this one, where it was very, very soft, still drying up there, but I could drop that again into the background. I think I'm going to go with a really distinct version of this grass. Oh, it's not quite stuck to the block, but I think it'll cope. Coming up through the middle there. Nice. So it's just drawing our eye in a different way from the soft watercolory look of the background. Let's have that, and then a little one coming in up the side. So again, that balance between the soft and the precise is really just a lovely way to play. I'm going to create another little pool of colour here and create myself some purpley affairs. Give that a little mix. Might put a bit of dark in there as well. So that was Shaded Lilac, Faded Jeans, and just a touch of Wilted Violet. Hang on. Shaded Lilac, Wilted Violet. Yes, I am right. There we go. Let's get that down. So these are going to be quite watery. Oh, I love that. With the blue and the green. All in one go. So simple. So pretty. And it's almost got a look of lavender around it with that purple on there. That might be enough for me, that one, without any extra, no precision, maybe just a word up here in the corner. And yeah, it's interesting. The difference between the Smoothy card and the watercolour paper is sort of not as extreme as I was expecting. Partly because Smoothy card is really good at holding moisture. But there is a difference. This is softer, this is more precise, but there may have been more water. Again, just loving that exactly as it is. Let's, while we're at it, while we've got all this lovely purple ink on here, I'm going to get out the third of these, which is this slightly more leafy affair, because I think that's going to be rather nice in purple. Let's get ourselves a couple of these. Ooh, nice and soft. So that one I feel does want something more precise. These are really dropping into the background in a lovely way. But I am going to want something more specific in the foreground on that one eventually. So let's do a specific one. I'm going to come up the middle, maybe with some shabby shutters. Actually, no, let's go leafy with the shabby shutters. So I'm aiming for the leaves as I stamp that up. And then I'm going to bring my faded jeans and just kind of use the edge of that to tilt and try and hit mostly the stems. Again, a really gentle spray of water. And let's see what we get. Yes, pretty. Really nice. Coming back into here to pick up what I can pick up. And pop that there. I'd quite like a little bit of bluiness down at the bottom here. Just some sort of tips of branches to create a little bit of grounding for those stems that were floating in the middle of everywhere. And then I might just have one coming across the centre as well, like so. It's playing. It really is using what's here. Might come in with one of these here as well. I'm going to get these ribbons so messy, but that's fine. In the long run, I'll probably paint them anyway. That's good. I like that. Let's have one down here. So just, again, continuing to layer that page. I don't know what will go on there in the long run. Maybe some photos, maybe some collage scraps. Let's have you in there. And then let's do just a couple more using the Infusions. I've got, what have I got? A few more pieces of paper left. This could have one. So I'm going to go for a precise stamping with some Archival Ink. So that's the Beach Cruiser. Going to come in and just stamp that there. And maybe a secondary stamping of that here, even tertiary. There we go. Then I'm going to get some bit Jaded. Oh, that's a lot of bit Jaded. So if you haven't used Infusions before, you'll see I'm not taking the lids off. I've got a little hole in the top here made with a brad awl. That's one of these, also known as a bodger. And yeah, I tip my powders out in small amounts. You can absolutely, rather than make the hole in the lid, they come with a little sponge in the top, so you could make the hole in the sponge instead, and then you'd have the lid sealed. But I really can't be bothered to take lids on and off the whole time. I sort of want this mix. So this is a bit Jaded. That's shaded Lilac. And I'm really enjoying the Shabby shutters as well. Very interesting. What it's doing is I sometimes find a bit Jaded a bit too blue-green, and what the Shabby shutters is giving me is that lovely variation into more of an acid colour. So I've got this in a precise stamping. I'm going to go for a nice messy stamping of that. You can see already, just looking at the stamp, what that's doing. Really scrumptious, messy one. Again, if there's too much going on, just grab a bit of paper towel, knock it back. I really want to get into this Shabby shutters up here and create something a bit greener. I think we'll go for a messy one here. Yes. So I've now got a really messy one plus those very neat ones. And that's making me happy. And now that I've got, of course, all of this left on the mat, I can do some spattering. I could do some leftovers. Just thinking of a couple of bits of darker green along the bottom here, because that makes a nice framing effect. Yep, happy with that. Let's see. Might do a little bit of word stamping. This is the one that's sticking out like a sore thumb at the moment. So I'm thinking I might get back this and put it mostly through this purple that I can see on the mat. That's the shaded Lilac. Give it a little spritz, see what we get. Up through there, nice. And a little bit of the green, soft green. So you can really layer as much jungle as you want. You can keep things very simple, or you can add in layers and layers and layers and just let that jungle be full of fertile growth. I really like this purple one sort of by itself. That's a very simple one, but makes me very happy. How about a bit of spattering? Are there any of these I want to spatter? I'm not sure that I do. That one's only precise, so I think I do want some messiness on there. Let's give it a little bit of that and a little bit of that. There we go, lay it up. And then, yes, maybe we just do a mop up. Let's pull. Ooh, I know what we could do. Since they're here, I've got some of my new 4-in-1 stencils are here, which I've cut into 4 because I can. And I might take this petally one and just do, so I'm going to pick up the ink that's on here, smoosh it around so I can see that I've got ink pretty much over all of that, and then get myself another page in the journal, turn over. Might as well avoid the blank page syndrome. Come back in and just do a bit of oh no, okay, so I didn't get much of the actual petalness there. It's because I'm trying to do it mid-air. So let's go with the petals. There we go, that's getting me the shape. Nice. So little petals emerging from the background, little outlines of petals from printing that. And then if I go over with some inking, I'll be able to draw those petal shapes into focus. In fact, why don't we do that right now? Don't get on there. Don't want you on there. Yeah, so just to build that background while I've got this all messy and inky. Let's put this in place. Get myself a sponge, get myself a little bit of, well, maybe the shabby shutters, just because I never do. And let's bring a few of those just through. It's picking up the ink that's already on the paper and creating that definition. Fun. That's why it's always a good idea to have a blank art journal sitting around, because it's great for mop-ups, it's great for little ideas that strike. But the geometry of these, and there I deliberately filled in the gap. There it is, alive. Believe it or not, that's the dog down below being happy that his owners have come back, if you can hear the yelping that's going on. So I almost want to stop there. I'm going to gather some bits just so you can see how one might layer these up into clusters. And then, yeah, maybe stamp the odd word or two. Layering up the snippets we might do in more detail in another video. If that's something that interests you, please leave a comment saying so. But it could be as simple as a little bit of fabric, a little bit of book page, layering up this. Obviously, if I ink around the edge, that's going to bring it into focus even more. Or that could go on a much simpler page as well, something like this, just with that background. In fact, I do rather like that. We might complete that as a page on another day, or it could go in one of my book page journals, anything really, that kind of, using these to layer. Look at my fingers, always a sign of a good time. So layering up these in little clusters is definitely a way to build an element that could go into a journal page, onto a tag, as a card topper. All of that sort of possibility arises as soon as you've got little bookmark shapes like this. But yes, also on this set, you've got the words grasses, wild, silence, as well as beautiful little ephemera pieces. So if I were just to add a little bit of stamping to a couple of these, I might go with, for instance, the word grasses right here. I think I'm going to stamp in Archival because I know that that will stay put, whatever else happens in the future. There it is. And as well as those large words, you've got these two little fragments. The Silent Wilderness, that's a little bit of Shelley, I believe. All the various shades of green, that's a little bit of Trollope, Anthony Trollope. So that would fit. That would be quite nice there as well. Grasses, I think, down at the bottom. Quite like the idea of that. The thing, maybe in a very subtle little Pebble beach, which will drop into the background but still enable me to get things wet in the future. I could add a little bit of detail stamping to a couple of these. So just having a look, this one for instance might be quite nice. We've got very soft plant matter. In fact, I won't do it on the mat. I'm going to do a peel on, peel off, so that I get a little more flexibility in that. Nice. And maybe this one as well that I liked so much. Just a little bit coming down this side. That's pretty. just gently adding details. You could absolutely stamp on the watercolour paper, even though it's slightly textured. You'll get potentially slightly less precision, but actually that's worked really nicely. Do we want a word on that one as well? Quite like the idea of silence through there. Maybe in grey, because I like the grey tone of this. Grey and grey and grey. So this is hickory smoke. So this will stay less solid if I get things wet. So I need to be careful not to, if I want that to stay gentle and pretty. Let's have some more silence somewhere else, shall we? Yes, on this one. There we go, up at the top here. Silence. Good. One more silence. Who else wants some silence? You, maybe down at the bottom here. And then, of course, you can always ink around the edges. That'll draw the eye inwards, particularly if I use something like a green. That's going to bring the eye towards the centre. If you ink all the way around, it'll sort of close in the top, or you could leave the top nice and bright and open for some variation. And it really is as simple as that. Just having a little play, as I say, with any stamps you've got. Doesn't have to be these. Use what's in your stash. Doesn't have to be green that we go around the edge with. There's a bit of broken china. There's some green on the sponge, but that's all good. Yeah. And they will just be lovely to layer up into art journal pages, into bookmarks, into card toppers, into tags. Thanks so much for your company. I hope you've enjoyed that little wild grassy playtime, and if you have, give me a thumbs up. If you're not already subscribed, I'd love to have your company on this creative journey. And yeah, do check out down below the list of ingredients I've used today, as well as links to the full launch videos if you'd like to see more of these new stamps. I want a little bit of wordage down here. Sorry, just continuing to play. As always, thank you for your company and happy crafting all.